So after we have presented the major protocols in wireless networks, and we have focused on the network access layer of IEEE 22.11, then we will start now talking about the network security and the major network security protocols used in wireless local area network. We have already introduced two basic types of Wi-Fi networks, which are ad hoc and infrastructure. In IEEE terminology, they are loosely equivalent to independent basic service set and extended service set. The services provided by IEEE MAC sublayer are limited to metropolitan local area network, and a wireless local area network typically operates within distances of less than about 100 meters. However, wireless local area networks plays an important role in giving users access to other networks that form part of Internetwork, such as the Internet. Hence, we shall briefly look at three levels of network in this section: independent basic service sets, the extended service set, and Internetwork. Wireless mobile stations such as laptop computers and personal digital assistants with wireless network interface cards stay within their own local network. They can each have a single IP address. However, should a mobile station move or roam to another local network, then a new IP address is required that reflects this change. It's possible for a station to request a new IP address each time it detects a new network. But some data may be lost during the handover from one network to another. One solution to the problem of mobile stations moving different networks is proposed by mobile IP. Mobile station called a mobile node in the proposed solution has two IP addresses. One does not change and the other does. The IP address that does not change is called the home address, and the one that does it called the care of address. The home address identifies a mobile node's home network, and one of the roles of a router in that network is to forward packets address to a mobile node to its current location. A router that performs this role is called a home agent in this context. A care address is assigned to a mobile node by a router in a visited network. The router in the visited network is called a foreign agent. The foreign agent forms the home agent of the current care of address of a mobile node. The home agent forwards a packet to a mobile node by encapsulating the IP packet within another IP packet. The outer IP packet contains the care of address as the destination address in the protocol control information. The effect of this encapsulation is to form an IP tunnel. As you can see in the following figure, the corresponding node can send a packet which should be received by the home agent, which encapsulates the packet by the care of addresses of the node visiting another network. Then the packet will be entered in a tunnel, IP tunnel between the home agent and foreign agent, and then the foreign agent will forward the mobile node which is visiting its network. We have already seen the network security requirements in T325. Let's remind you about them. There are mainly 5 security requirements for communication networks, which are the availability of service, the confidentiality, the data integrity, the authentication, and the non-repudiation. You can read the following slides to remind you about each one of them. We have limited the discussion in this section to IEEE 802.11 wireless local area networks that contain access points which are responsible for authenticating stations. Wired equivalent privacy web ad hoc networks have similar arrangements for authenticating stations. Before a station can send any data, it must be associated and authenticated with an access point. An access point regularly broadcasts frames that contains its identity in the form of an alphanumeric string called a system set identifier SSID. Manufacturers have set forth SSID values that can be changed by network administrators. It's also possible for the broadcast messages to be suspended. The station may have a choice of access points and request to be associated with its chosen access points. A simple security measure that can be taken is for an access point to form an association with a station only if it recognizes the MAC address of the station. What are the drawbacks to an approach limiting access to a station with recognizable MAC address? If you think about this, the original 802.11 specification provides two authentication services at the MAC sublayers, open system and shared key. In open system authentication, there is no authentication, and any station requesting to be authenticated is automatically granted it. No authentication may seem a strange authentication system, but that is why it is called an open system. Shared key authentication is based on symmetric key encryption. However, the specification does not define how keys are distributed, and typically all stations share the same set of secret keys. Let's start with the authentication process of WEP. The authentication process starts with the station transmitting a management frame to the selected access point to request authentication. The horizontal arrows in the figure indicates frames sent between the station and the access point, and where they appear along the vertical time axis gives the order they are sent. The access point responds by transmitting a randomly generated challenge text addressed to the station. The station then sends a frame containing the same challenge text, but this time the frame is encrypted with the shared key. The access point decrypts frame at 3 and compares the challenge text with the one it generated. If the two versions of the challenge text are the same, then the access point assumes that the station is who they say they are because they possess a shared key. But there are many concerns in this authentication process of WEP. Think about them. The WEP algorithm for encrypting messages in 802.11. The WEP algorithm is based on a stream cipher, which is exclusive or a pseudo-random bit stream, with the frame to be encrypted. Each frame is encrypted independently. The common alternative to a stream cipher is a block cipher, which encrypts fixed size blocks with the same secret key. The pseudo-random number generator produces a stream of bits based on an initial value called a seed. The seed is composed of two components, an initialization vector and secret key. The first one, the initialization vector, is sent as a plain text part with the cipher text. The WEP frame shown is further encapsulated at the physical layer, but this does not affect the operation of the algorithm. The pseudo-random number generator will produce the same sequence of bits each time the same seed is used. Attackers monitoring the transmissions in a wireless network will be able to observe many occurrences of ciphertext being produced by the same key stream, and this will aid them in breaking the code. Ideally, each message would use a different seed. However, the secret key is not changed very often, and the purpose of the initialization vector is to reduce the number of times same seed is. You should note that the initialization vector itself is not encrypted and hence is known to any attacker. They can compile a dictionary of encrypted messages and initialization vector in anticipation, and that eventually the same initialization vector will be reused, and therefore the same random number generator resulting in different packets being encrypted with the same key sequence. The integrity check value in a WEP frame is a checksum that protects the message from unauthorized changes, a form of message integrity checksum. The type used in WEP is a simple cyclic redundancy check, and is not very strong protection against attacks. Decryption of ciphertext is achieved by exclusive ordering the ciphertext with the same pseudo-random bit stream as that used for encryption. Property of XOR is that A XOR A equals 0. So if we are ciphering the message by P XOR K and then decrypting it by XORing K again, since XOR is associative, then we will have XOR K XOR K equals 0, and then in this way we will derive or decrypt the plain text P. Try to solve the following activity. IEEE 802.1x standard is intended to provide authentication of devices attached to an 802 local area network. The authentication is for point-to-point connections over both wired and wireless media. 802.1x standard was aimed at 802.3 networks, in which a port was the physical connection point on a local area network hub. The definition of a port has since been extended to include logical ports. An uncontrolled port allows users access without the need for them to be authenticated, and is generally limited to providing users access to the authentication system. A control port can be either authorized or unauthorized. Users cannot use a control port when it's in the unauthorized state. The concept of logical port is used to restrict stations access by providing means of identifying a logical point of attachment to a network. In the case of a wireless local area network, a port is logical association between a station and an access point. Two distinct points of access are created by two ports, a control port and an uncontrolled. The authenticator in a wireless local area network is the access point that needs a station to be authenticated. In an 802.1x terminology, a station is an example of a supplicant. The device that actually performs the authentication is called an authentication server, which can be either a separate device or part of an access point. The authentication of a station is provided by the Extensible Authentication Protocol, EAP, which was initially designed for use with the point of PPP. A common application of PPP is on dial-in services provided by Internet Service Provider. EAP provides general framework for authentication system to operate above the network access layer in the TCP/IP reference model, such as a 2.2 series of standards. The method of authentication is determined by the supplicant and the authentication server. The following figure illustrates an exchange of messages between the supplicant, the authenticator, and the authentication server. Each of these messages is encapsulated in a MAC protocol data unit. Typically, the EAP authentication protocol exchange takes the form of a challenge response. In advance of the publication of 802.11i standard, the Wi-Fi Alliance issued an interim measure called Wi-Fi Protected Access (WPA). The features of Wi-Fi Protected Access include 802.1x port access control authentication, the security keys derived during the authentication process, and the distribution of keys through radius. the temporary key integrity protocol and the micro-message integrity code included in 802.11i. These keys are used for a short period of time, which gives the attackers fewer opportunities for cracking the encryption. Inter-protocol security IPSec includes features that provide security at the internet layer of the TCP/IP reference model. IPSec provide two protocols that give different security features, and there are two modes of operation for each protocol. The first mode is the transport mode, provides end-to-end security, host-to-host security. The other mode is the tunnel mode that can also be used as end-to-end. But must be used if security is provided over only part of a network. The IPSec protocol data units encapsulates the original IP data units, which themselves typically encapsulates either TCP or UDP protocol data units. The IPSec protocol data units are encapsulated by lower layer protocol data units, such as Ethernet and wireless local area network. The security features that can be provided by IPSec include confidentiality, authentication of data origin, and data integrity. IPSec tunnels are applied across a wireless network and the public internet. This example would represent an employee accessing a server on their employer's private network from a public wireless network. Virtual private networks. A typically application where IPSec is the provision of virtual private networks. In effect, a virtual private network is a private network that uses a public network such as the internet. The connections over the public network are made secure through techniques such as those provided by IPSec. A common approach is to provide secure IP tunnels across insecure parts of the network. In this example, the only place in which data is encrypted is as it traverses the tunnel, which is usually the most vulnerable part of the Internetwork. IPSec operates at the internet layer of the TCP/IP model, hence IPsec packets are encapsulated in network access frames and the MAC addresses are transmitted as plain text.